Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Plot podcast. Today's guest, we have the amazing Emma Steele. She's a Scottish writer who blends big love stories with the mysterious, from near-death experiences to lucid dreams. So stick around, you won't want to miss this conversation. And please remember to click subscribe or to follow me on Instagram or all the other platforms where you can listen to my podcast. It would really mean a lot. And you get the opportunity to get those first notifications when a new episode lands. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy this episode with Emma. Bye. Hi, Emma. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you getting on?
I am really well, thank you. I love that you've joined as a guest on the podcast. So thank you so much for coming on. And I know our listeners will really enjoy hearing your story. And I'm keen to get to know you a little bit more. Um,
Thanks for
so
having me. Nicole.
you're welcome. Love to just share a little bit about who you are. So if you can just um, share with the listeners kind of who you are and what you write, I think that will be a great starting point.
Sure. So I live in Edinburgh with my husband and two young girls, and I write, I guess it's commercial women's fiction. Sometimes it's called romance, and sometimes it's called more to the book club. But I think women's fiction is probably about where it is. I'm actually a lawyer by trade. So I have been in and out of legal jobs around writing and yeah, I started seriously writing, I would say kind of 9 years ago, sort of writing with a vengeance, really. So that
Yeah,
is a bit about
wow.
me and my latest book, The Love of Our Lives. That's my second book, came out on September 11th. So it's still pretty fresh on the market, but it's lovely to have it out now.
Yeah, and I follow you on Instagram, and that's how we connected. And I thought you'd be the perfect person to come on as a guest. And I really find your story inspiring. Um, so yeah, so your is this your first traditionally published book?
Yes, well, I guess it's my first 1-2 book deal, traditionally.
Right.
So my first book, The Echoes of Us, came out last. I keep getting confused with it because there was a hardback and the paperback, but yes, it came out in 2024, and yeah, that was my first traditional publishing. But it actually did come out before that, a year before that, in Germany, which makes the whole experience slightly weird and wonderful, and the journey a wee bit unique. But
Yeah,
the second one is part of that 2 book deal. Yes.
amazing, amazing. So so that's interesting story actually then. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how that happened? Like if it came out in
Yeah.
Germany
Yeah.
first, I'm really intrigued to understand, like, yeah, what's the process? What's it been like?
It's yeah, it was all lovely, but it was strange at the time. So when I first went out with the story with my agency, it went out internationally basically. But at the time, I didn't quite understand what that meant. Really, you don't really know where it's being sent or anything like that. And within a weekend kind of thing, it had a preempt from a German publisher, and that just happened to be the first deal that came through. And
Mhm.
there was just a very passionate editor over there, who really wanted to work on the stories. And that's initially why it came out first, but also because my UK publisher that I got, they then got bought by Headline. And
Yeah,
so that kind of shift for that publisher of going through all those changes meant that some of their publications got delayed by a year, which was fine, really. It just made the journey quite strange, where Germany wanted to publish on their sort of
yeah,
dates that they were saying, and the UK just had to fall slightly behind, basically. And then,
okay.
interestingly, it's got other translations in other countries as well, but it's quite unpredictable. Some have already gone in the Czech Republic, and then others, they're just publishing the first one now. So, like, sometimes I'm a bit like, I don't quite know where everything is publishing, but it's great because it's publishing, so that's good.
Yeah, it must I mean, how does it feel having a following from not just in the UK, but that wider spread of Europe, and I mean, you might have people who are in America and in Australia and Asia, like who could be reading this as well. How does that feel for you?
It is really lovely, and I heard from an Australian reader of my second book recently, which was really lovely, and she was just saying how much she enjoyed it. But I didn't even know it was out yet in Australia, so it is that sometimes that funny thing. I'm like, oh, that's lovely. I didn't know it was there. That's great. But
Wow.
it's a lovely feeling, and I think it just keeps giving the books those kind of new leases of life in different marketplaces, and everyone, all the markets are, they have their subtle differences as well. So it's just that nice thing of feeling like the books are spreading their wings quite nicely in around places.
Yeah. Are you seeing as well, like you've got consistent followers, like certain readers who are now on the journey with you, and you know, they they kind of connect with you, whether that's through social media or other kind of platforms. But yeah, do you feel that you're getting a bit of a following now?
It has been, there's something about publishing the second book that's been particularly lovely, because it's not your first rodeo kind of thing. So I'm like, we've been down this before, but this is the second time. And then you do see sort of reader comments or Instagram people coming back and saying, "Oh, I loved The Echoes of Us, so I've been really excited to read the second book." And I think as an author, that's sort of music to your ears, really, because that's why you kind of get in the game, is to entertain people. So if you start to see people enjoying your work and wanting to keep enjoying your work on and on, because I'm the same. If I like one book, then right now I'm just a Frida McFadden nut. So I love the fact that she's got like a million books to go through a backlog. I mean, I don't have a million books to go through. I'd love to eventually have that that many to
Yes,
go
yeah,
back through. But I think what's nice is finding a way of writing that you like, and then being able to read that, and vice versa. There's some new readers I've seen who have enjoyed the second one and then gone, "Oh, I'm going to go back and get the first one."
yeah,
So you start to
yeah,
see that cross pollination people talk about, of then spreading it across a couple of books.
yeah, yeah. That's great because then they'll be hounding you for the next one as well.
I hope
So,
so. That's the idea.
um, so let's take it back a bit because I'm really interested because you mentioned that you used to be a solicitor,
Yeah,
correct?
I
Yeah.
still technically am. Yeah.
Are you still practicing?
Well, I'm planning to, because when the girls were young, it worked really well to just be writing. But
Yeah,
I'm planning, I think, to be able to juggle a couple of things, both writing and a bit of law on the side for
yeah,
like life balance, I think, as
yeah.
well. Because writing is such a solitary existence. It really
Mm,
is you alone in a
yeah,
room, unless you're doing things like podcasts and events. But it's such a lot of alone time, and I'm actually quite a sociable person.
yeah,
So I've definitely found that, as I say, it was so helpful when the girls were young, but actually I miss sort of being in a physical team with
yeah,
people around me. So I'm hoping to kind of get a wee bit more of that kind of balance
yeah,
around writing in the
yeah.
future.
Yeah, because that's the hard thing about it, isn't it? It's like you've then got to have the juggle of like when do you write? Because do you
Uh-huh.
have like a set routine at the moment of when you decide to dedicate your time to writing?
I think it always depends where I am in life, kind of thing. So when I first started writing, I was in corporate,
Mm,
and it worked quite well, basically doing an hour a day. And I did that around kids and around a corporate job. Um, I had at that point reduced my work to sort of 4 days a week, 9 to 4. And
yeah,
that's what did it. And then I could come home and spend time y- at that point with one baby, then two babies, and then spend 1 hour every evening, and really kept it quite defined. But it's
yeah,
amazing how much work you can get through in an hour, I always find. And then when I have had more full time to be writing, there's only so much I can do again. So it'll be more look like a few hours in the morning, and then I'd be off doing X, Y, and Z of domestic stuff and kids pickups and cleaning, and
yeah,
it's amazing how much you fill a day anyway. But I think it depends just where I'm at in life and what I'm doing. But I think the one big thing is consistency. I think if you
yeah,
lose that consistency, you can quite quickly just fall off the writing bandwagon. I think it's
Mm,
all about being like, no, every day I dedicate, even if it's 10 minutes, because some people almost have to get to that point of going, I'll just give myself 10 minutes a day
mm.
and write a paragraph or two. That is literally enough to start
Yeah,
seeing some consistent efforts with things.
yeah. Because do you give yourself a deadline of, I mean, I know when you have a publisher, they have a deadline, but do you give yourself a deadline of like, so when you were first writing your first book, did you say, okay, I want to complete this in a year or 6 months? Do you give yourself that, or do you just let it flow and see kind of where you get to?
I think the very first book that I wrote was I wasn't even sure it was a book. Initially, I was
Mm,
just finally writing. So I was writing a psychological thriller at the time. That was my first sort of go at things. I was reading quite a lot of that. And it was honestly like the loveliest activity because every day, as I say, I would just have my wee creative hour, I would call it, and I would
yeah.
go off and just write parts of the book. And I think overall that probably took me a couple of years, that first one, because it was sort of slow and steady. But then when I wrote The Echoes of Us, my first book, that was much more of a flurry. And I just had this burning feeling like I wanted to write a book quite quickly. So I wrote that in about 6 months, I would say. And
Oh, yeah.
I would probably say I err towards writing quickly. I think once I've
Yeah.
got an idea in my head and a whole book in my head, I want I want the pages down, and I actually love the editing process. So I'm desperate to get to the editing part of it because
Yeah.
that's where the book really starts to come together. Whereas the first draft is just this sort of messy explosion. I've always got this feeling of if I don't get it down, it's not going to get done. So I tend to
Yeah.
be these days when I go into a book and get going, I'm quite a fast writer because of that. It's almost like I'm constantly thinking I'm running out of time. And I'm like, I'm not running out of time, but I've got that feeling like I'm running out of time. And then you actually have there are instances, for example, with the second book where I really was at points running out of time
Yeah.
to produce the draft I wanted to produce. So
Yeah.
that one took a lot of iterations to get to the point where I was happy with it. And so you
Yeah.
do start to get a bit of panic. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And I'm a bit like you actually. I'm someone who would rather get it down than work on it because you just want to get all your creativity out there before you
Mhm.
kind of forget it, right? And you think,
Yeah.
okay, let's get it down and then I can go for the process of like mapping out
Uh-huh.
exactly what this looks like and whether it's going to be ready for readers.
Yeah.
um and so do you give yourself a bit of a break because you've just had your second book that came out in
Mhm.
September.
Yeah.
You're obviously on a bit of a journey now with, marketing that, going to different events,
Mhm.
like meeting your readers, etc. When do you normally feel ready to then start writing again?
I think it's been a strange one this year, I would say, because we moved in at the tail end of August
Mm,
and I'd done so much writing. So basically my third book was already written, it was written last year. So
yeah.
I'd had such an intense few years of a lot of writing, a lot of content coming out. And I had this draft there, just done basically. But I kind of gave myself permission this summer to take a break to just
Mm,
let my mind
yeah.
rest for a moment. And also we decided, well, I decided I really wanted to spend time with the kids more this summer because I
Yeah.
might be going back into a legal job and things. So
Yeah.
that's why I took it was like proper sort of mental break from all of it. But
Yeah.
it has been really useful because now that I'm coming back into the third book draft, I'm almost reading it completely from afar, like a it's not my work, and it's been
Okay.
really helpful because
Yeah.
sometimes I tend to edit too close to having just written it, and I'm quite
Yeah.
guilty of that, and I really cannot see my errors with it that way. And sometimes I think with publishing contracts and all this kind of thing, a lot of authors have no choice but to hammer the draft and
Yeah.
then hammer the edits
Yeah.
straight after. And that's just life. But I think if you can possibly separate yourself from a book for a period of time,
Mm,
it is amazing how much more I'm picking up on. So
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm almost not having to I am actually in a weird way missing proper creative writing at the moment because I'm now in an editing process again. I do have an urge to write something properly creative, but I think
Yeah,
that might be more of a maybe I'll do some short stories on the side of
yeah,
the editing or something because I think you do have to keep those muscles flexing. But I've also been doing a lot of reading of other people's books. So,
yeah,
and I just think it's such an important part of the whole. Well, I personally think that. I'm not sure maybe all authors do, but I just learned so much from other
yeah,
people's work.
yeah,
And if you can allow yourself to just like almost like a sponge take it all in, I
yeah,
think that it massively improves your own writing.
yeah, 100%. Because I was actually going to ask you then, like, what typically inspires you when you're writing these books? Where does that inspiration stem from?
Do you know, it's a funny thing. It's I also have a slight change of answer with this recently, I've realized, is music is a massive inspiration with what I write, I've found. And I think that's why I tend to end up in romantic situations of some sort.
Uh-huh.
Um, if I find music particularly moving or interesting, that can really get the creative juices kind of flowing.
Yeah.
And I get really excited as well by really good, interesting concepts.
Mhm.
So I think when I first started writing, I don't think I think as many authors do, I didn't think enough about concept. So it was just sort of there were three women and there were some toxic relations there, but I didn't fully hook into the hook, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. And I think that's
Mm.
where it fell down. It did get some interest, but at the same time, I think looking back, that's why it didn't follow through to the next stage because I think
Yeah.
it just wasn't hooky enough. So if
Yeah.
I now find a hook really interesting, I get excited. And
Yeah.
then I end up listening to music and the music starts playing into the concept. And I've actually realized that sometimes I've started something and if I can't find music to match it, to match the vibe, I'll lose interest in the story because
Oh,
it's something's
wow.
not vibing with the music. It's really weird. I know. I was like, "What's wrong with me?" The musical writer.
Yeah. I love that though, because I've never heard that before actually, but I think it's whatever inspires you, right? To get those creative juices flowing and to get you in that mind frame to be like, right, yeah, this is exactly what I want to write about and this is what inspires me. So
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
yeah. You've got to want to put the words and the like really want
Yeah.
to put those words on the page and even like reading back through the draft that I did. It's lovely in a way looking back at my past self and going, "Oh, you were really into that." You know, that's nice. In that time and place, you were digging this.
Yeah. Do you listen to like I mean, what kind of music do you listen to?
It's kind of like quite, it's a mixture actually, I would say, of indie indie
Yeah,
kind of songs with a lot of heart and soul.
yeah,
Nothing too cheesy, but occasionally something peppier, funner comes in,
yeah.
and sometimes classical, quite
Okay.
movie soundtracks
Yeah,
I find really inspiring for particularly for dramatic sequences and that
yeah,
sort of thing. I love film as well. Like I
yeah,
really love movies in particular. So when I'm writing, I'm also visualizing things as
yeah,
cinematically as I can. So
yeah.
yeah, it's probably quite dramatic stuff that I'm listening to usually.
Well, you'll be straight in there if your books ever get adapted into like a movie. You'll be like, right, I've got a playlist of
Got the
all the
whole
songs.
soundtrack done. They've been created already, so no one needs to do it.
Oh, that would be brilliant. I'm actually really intrigued how you started your writing career. Like, have you always loved writing? Like, what's that been like for you?
Um, yeah, I would say like from when I was a young girl, I think literature was where I was best generally. So I was terrible at maths from a very young age. I think it was never quite my genetic system, no matter how hard I tried. But reading always came quite easily. And I remember as a child, I think it's that classic thing with a lot of authors, not all, but again, a lot, creating these picture books, doing the illustrations,
Yeah.
writing the stories,
Mhm.
getting my mum to pin it together like a book. And my mum was
Yeah.
a huge reader. So I think I always saw my mum with a book, and books were
Yeah.
everywhere. And it was just a part of my life. And late at night, I would regularly as a child be up late reading books. So I
Mm.
was taking in a lot of information from quite a young age. And in my first diary when I was 9, I wrote, I want to be an author. I want to write a book when I'm older. It was there quite concretely from a really young age. But then you kind of go to, it's difficult because I liked lots of other things as well. I loved art
Yeah.
and, um, history. There was lots of other
Yeah.
things I enjoyed. Um, I was probably always best with the English. I would say that was the strong suit, but you start thinking about careers and stuff like that. And I think as a woman, I did want a stable career. I wanted something that I could rely on as I got
Yeah.
out of school. So I went off and did law. And I still love the fact that I have this degree that allows me that kind of financial freedom
Yeah.
in a way with things that I can turn to it and use the English language while I'm doing it. So it's not, yes, it's totally different from writing creative books, but it's not a million miles away, and you're using language skill sets on quite a regular basis with it. Um, and so went off and did that. Had a great time at uni, forgot all about the books other than reading, because I always
Yeah.
enjoyed that. And then I think basically as soon as I kind of got into my sort of later 20s, I was just started going on to creative workshops and
Yeah.
always kind of sitting down and just writing in a stream of emotion. Uh,
Mhm.
but I would say that so much of what I wrote at the start was just absolute garbage. It was unformed. There was no concept, no story, but sometimes I would just have to go write scenes. It would be like a
Yeah.
scene of something dramatic playing out, and always a woman with a problem and just outpourings of emotion. And it was very much when I had my first child, and I was used to going out all the time and being really sociable and going to this event and that event and everything. And suddenly I was sort of kind of in the house all the time. And that's when I got this real kick of, oh, I could just kind of start writing like
Yeah.
properly, and sat down, as I say, and started writing that psychological thriller. Wasn't sure where it was going, but eventually, night after night after night, I was like, I think I'm writing a full book. I think this
Yeah.
could be a book. And wouldn't it be interesting if I could publish this book? It just
Yeah.
suddenly started coming into my head in a way it
Yeah.
hadn't done before, that it was a genuine possibility. Um, and so that was the real kind of progression into the writing kind of department, and actually finally producing and offering for the market, basically.
Yeah, amazing. And I always think things happen for a reason. I'm a big believer that like you've got a path that you follow and things happen and they take you down to this certain route. And it sounds like it's always been embedded in you, but it just a time happened in your life where, okay, now I'm ready to do this and I actually want to spend time doing it. And then it just evolved from there to where you are now, right? Which is
It
phenomenal
snowballed.
and snowballed, yeah. Which is an amazing thing because once you finished that book then, what steps did you take? Were you like, right, I know that I want to be traditionally published. I'm going to
Mhm.
send it out to X, Y, and Z publishers. Like, what
Yeah.
did that look like for you?
I think that was it. I think because I was already in a corporate world, I
Yeah.
did look at it very commercially very early. And
Hmm.
I thought, if I'm going to write a book, I don't really want, I'm not interested in the marketing covers and stuff.
Yes.
I would like another company to take the book
Yeah.
and maybe give me some money. That would be nice as well.
Yeah.
But like that, it was commercially, there was that aspect of it. So I I just basically started researching everything by myself. I was Googling everything to do with writing, and started sussing out that there were these agents, and the agents were the gatekeepers to the publishing
Yeah.
industry. So it was all about, and then you whittle it down to the next stage, and you're like, okay, they want 3 chapters, and they want a synopsis, and they want a cover letter. And by that point, that's the handy thing with law. I was like, okay, we can do a cover letter, we can
Yeah.
create this, and we can create that bit. And so I started looking at it from sort of a sensible angle, and started sending it out to agents, multiple
Yeah.
agents that I found online, and followed all their instructions and all this kind
Yeah.
of thing. And yeah, and it was lovely in a way, because actually it was that false sense of security. Is very quickly, actually, I got a response from a big agent just saying they devoured the first 3 chapters, and they wanted to see, the rest of the book. And I was just I was so excited. I was like, "Oh, and that's it. Like, we're published." I have a career as an author. No, no, no. It was not that simple, because they took the full, and a few agents took the full, read it. And then actually they were very kind also in feeding back down the line, basically saying they loved the writing, but the plot essentially I think was a bit all over the
Yeah.
shop still,
Okay.
because I hadn't done enough on tightening
Yeah.
up stuff. So, but it gave me quite a buzz of, I can write, but I
Yeah.
obviously need to work on the craft side
Yeah.
of things. So that's when I did 2 things. I found a writing workshop in Edinburgh, called Scriva at the time, and that was really lovely, great writers. And then also did the Curtis Brown course
Yeah.
as well, because I kind of figured, oh, there's quite a lot of writers that seem to do this this Curtis Brown thing, so I better do it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to sort of hit all the marks with what I could do to help
Yeah.
myself. And ultimately both really, really, really helped, because the upshot was, that's when I then wrote, to get onto the Curtis Brown course, I wrote a rom-com. And I now, looking back, I'm like, I don't know why I wrote a rom-com, because I don't really read them. And also I watch them. I love watching
Yes.
rom-coms. I
Yeah.
just don't really read them. I love like love stories, which
Yes. Yeah.
feels is slightly different kind of thing. But anyway, as I say, I like watching them, so I felt maybe I was writing some sort of script at the time. So I kind of did this, and then got on with that. And then my tutor at the time was pointing out that I kept making my rom-com very sad. So and I could feel, I do love, not like desperately well, maybe they are desperately sad, but like my favorite films would be kind of it, or books as well, as Time Traveler's Wife and
Ah,
Legends of the
yes.
Fall, and the
Yeah.
sweeping kind of epic ones were
Yeah.
my kind of joy place. Um, and so that's when I kind of went away and started really concept driving, like what would really hook in an agent, because you have that chance with Curtis Brown
Yeah.
to send work at the end to the
Okay.
agents.
Yeah.
And so it really made me go, what's going to make them pick my book out of a pile at this point? And that's when I started. It was that concept driven thing again of what interests me is when I like phenomena. So
Yeah.
I loved the idea of a near death experience, but that had been done quite a lot before. So I found something called a shared death experience, which I'd never seen anywhere before. And that's where 2 people can see each other's, but they're almost like one person can see the other person's memories in the point before death. So
Yeah.
it allowed me to have a romantic story with 2 people sharing an experience, but in a unique way.
Yeah.
And luckily, agents did respond to that, because it was sort of a known thing, like a near death experience, but flipping it a bit into something else. So
Yeah.
that set it off from there.
Amazing. That's it. It's so incredible to hear the journey of like actually what you have to go through, and like you were
Yeah.
saying, just
Not short.
not. And you probably kind of realize yourself, like, oh, I thought
Like,
that was it.
oh,
I was just going to
I've
get
done a
published.
lot.
But that's the myth, right? Don't get hooked into. just a little bit of excitement from someone might say, "Oh, yeah, you're gonna get published," until you actually see that contract.
You're like, it's a
Um,
long, long journey.
yeah, yeah. Does it mean now that, like, you've just had your second book, come out in September, what does kind of the future look like for you now? Like, do you still have to submit like everybody else now that you out is that was that your second
That
book
was
from your book deal?
that was my second book. So I
Yeah.
am working on my third now, and I won't say too much, but it's kind of being edited at the moment, and there are plans for it going forwards, but
Yeah.
we have to just see what how that evolves
Yeah.
and all that sort of side of things. But it
Yeah.
is, as I say, it is essentially written. So I just need to kind of hone it down now and yeah, hopefully get it out.
Do you feel the pressure even more so now that you are published and
Yeah,
you've got other people like waiting on you almost?
I would say, and I think a lot of people who are 1, 2 books in or 3 or 4 would probably agree that actually it becomes a very pressurized arena. I think
Mm,
when you're not a debut, I think as a debut, you have all the kind of the spark and the optimism and the joy of you never know, you never
yeah.
know, and then you kind of get into the industry and it's like you have to keep scoring into a net
Yeah.
over and over again, consistently, perfectly. And that is in itself a lot of pressure to
Yeah.
do that. And it's tricky because I don't think the market, the readers give authors very much leeway with with not scoring a goal.
Yeah.
So your work really has to improve and get better and mature and keep reaching up a bit higher. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it is definitely hard. Sometimes I have to take a step back and there's only literally so much that that you can do.
Yeah.
And I think it does probably really stress a lot of authors behind the scenes
Yeah.
once you're through the door. And I think it can be also it's very hard if you're not through the door yet as well, because there's
Yeah.
lots of people I know who've been hammering against the industry for years
Yeah.
without making it through that first gate,
Yeah.
but make it through the first gate and it can be great. There's
Yeah.
brilliant parts of it, but it keeps being gate after gate after gate. That's the thing. So I think unless you kind of manage to get up to that kind of
Mm.
Jojo Moyes, David Nichols
Yeah.
kind of level where you almost become a bit I would say a bit untouchable in a lovely way, you know, brilliant work and people have
Yeah.
responded and it's gone so wide that it's quite hard to come back from it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um you kind of you're kind of working your way up through that system to make a
Yeah.
name for yourself. And that can be a lot of work.
Yeah, I can imagine, and it's quite a competitive industry, right? You think about how many individuals are trying to get their work published. We've
Mhm.
we've seen over the years an increase of so many individuals going down the independent publishing route, right? For many reasons,
Yeah.
whether that's they're unsuccessful in getting traditionally published, but a lot of them are now actually they're doing it because they want to get all the money, right? They don't want to have
Control as
to.
well. It's a
Yeah,
sense
it's
of
control.
control in
Yeah,
quite a unpredictable industry as well,
yeah,
which is quite a fickle industry. So,
yeah,
I can imagine a lot it's not necessarily for me, but I have a lot of respect for people who do it because I think it does give them more control. They can
yeah,
choose when, what, how,
yeah,
and how quick it goes out. And actually, there's lots of authors out there who have done really well from it as well.
yeah,
So it's yeah, I'm like kudos. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. It's
I
good that
think I'm
there's a
just a bit
platform.
lazy on some
Yeah.
of I'm like, I don't want to design my cover. Like,
Well,
I'm
there's a lot of things that go behind it. Like
yeah.
the amount of things that you have to do and you have to pay out up
Mhm.
front, it's quite off-putting to some people,
It's a
and
lot of work. It's
it is a
almost,
lot of
I would
work.
say, close to a full-time job, I think, if
Yeah,
you're doing that for definitely a period of
managing
time.
everything, and
Yeah.
even understand how to navigate it all, because you're like, if you've never done it before, you're like, "Okay, where do I start? How do I even understand what I'm
Who
supposed to
produces
do?"
it? I'm like, it's just
Yeah.
like all this stuff. I'm like,
And then also there's that like doubt of like, what if I choose someone to edit my manuscript and actually they're not very good? Like, how am I, I've just forked out all that
Yeah.
money, and then, yeah,
Who
it's
have
a
I given
really
it to? Yeah.
tough job. But I'm glad there's that platform for those
Yeah.
authors that want to go down that route, because I think now it just gives people more options.
I
And
love that it's there, and I
yeah,
love that I'm sure it's definitely Colleen Hoover started self-published, and
yes,
there's lots of
yeah,
other authors that are big names now
yeah,
were self-publishing initially, and almost in a way, if you start doing that, you're learning a lot about the industry
yeah,
itself.
yeah,
So by the time, if you wanted to, if you end up then going traditionally,
yeah,
then you probably have a lot of information behind you, which can only help your publishing journey.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, So we spoke earlier. I was just talking to you briefly around obviously your inspiration for music, and I kind of mentioned, oh, if your books got adapted into a movie. So I'm actually intrigued, like, if your books got turned into a movie, which one
Mhm.
would you choose, and who would you want to play the lead role?
Oh, it's a tricky one. I would obviously like both films to be to be adapted into a movie. Um, there was all I think there's always something about your first book. The Echoes of Us was very. It's. I've said this to someone before. It is literally burnt on my soul now, that book, and I would really like that to be adapted. I always thought it's it's ridiculous because they were normal people together, so really they couldn't be in another film together. But I've always thought it's that sort of Daisy Edgar Jones and Paul
Yeah,
Mescal kind of characters are
yeah,
actually
yeah,
perfect because in that book Jen is sort of slightly reserved with her feelings and thoughts. And then the other characters, that kind of messier fun boy kind of thing, and I
yeah,
was like, that would just be that would be perfect as well. Harder to place the second book, but there was actually a strange inspiration, not strange, but there's the film Last Christmas,
yes,
don't
yeah,
know if you saw it. So, um, I did enjoy it, but there was something from that film that kind of inspired the love of our life. Well, it did inspire the love of our lives because it's all about heart transplant, and
yes, yeah,
I basically just feel I did that sort of concept, but in a different way, which goes into our heart transplants body kind of thing
yeah.
rather than in Last Christmas. Well, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it. But there was, because I saw that being done as a film in itself anyway. So when I wrote The Love of Our Lives, it was very much in a different cinematic way, but thinking actually this has been
Yeah,
used for film before this kind
yeah,
of thing. So it's could be quite easy to adapt this sort of thing. But yeah, I don't have as strong an image in my head of the
yeah.
pairings, I would say. So I have to give that one some thought.
Yeah. You'll wait till they'll come calling. Right, we wanted to put this in, adapt as a movie or a TV series.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when you know
TV
you've made
series
it,
is
right?
great these days. It just draws it all out. So
Yeah. And what if you could co-write a book with someone? Who would you love to co-write with?
oh, do you know, it's a funny one in a way. I almost wouldn't pick a famous author, really. I know it sounds weird. Some people say this is a disaster, but I always think writing a book with a friend would be
Yeah,
such a fun activity. Someone that
yeah,
you really enjoy spending time with, and you both write and have a creative thing, and actually
yeah,
you could. I just think you could have such a, and I've seen some author duos, on
yeah.
the network.
They are out there,
They're
yeah.
friends. They're
Mm.
friends, and I'm always slightly jealous. I'm like, "Ah, like, you made that work, like, you're
Yeah,
pals, but you also somehow managed to write a book together without,
yeah,
like, tearing each other up." But I think if you can vibe that well to make that happen, and
yeah,
also, I find anyway with my writing, so much of it is quite collaborative because I do send all my pages to first readers and good
yeah,
friends, trusted people anyway. So
yeah.
you're kind of always working with them, and in a way there's something nice about sharing the load of a book, because I
Mm,
think a whole story in itself is, as I say, quite a lonely existence, and you're holding this whole world in your head.
yeah,
And sometimes I will sort of second guess decisions that I'm making about a character motivations and stuff like that. And actually, to just work solidly with someone else, a friend, I think would be a lovely thing to do. It's just, I think for me, the right story with the right friend hasn't necessarily come up, but I would always
Yeah.
be open to doing that.
Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? Because you've got to find a friend that writes, then you've got to
Yeah.
find a friend that wants to write the same thing as you.
And right
And
with
then
me, they'd be like, no, I don't want to do that.
so do you have a big community? Because you just shared obviously there that, you have those advanced readers and you have a bit of a network that will read some of your
Yeah.
manuscript before you obviously send it out. Are you part of any associations or do you just have a community locally to you?
It's in terms of the writing, it's mainly so I'm in a critique group at the
Yeah.
moment with and in that group it's fab critique. I was in other ones before, but one sort of disbanded previously, just people moving on and leaving and stuff like that. And then this one now, in a lovely way, isn't my Curtis Brown group. I'm
Yeah.
actually basically just like, going into someone else's Curtis Brown group. Um, and they've been lovely. It's through an author friend, and it's this love. They are amazing writers. I sort of came in, and I was like, why am I here? It's incredible. But it's amazing the bar it lifts your
Yeah.
writing up to. And it's a mix of published and non-published people. I
Okay.
still honestly don't know why a few of them are not published. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
that's part but when you start opening your eyes up to just I think how hard it is for people to break through, and
Yeah.
it's horrifying with the level of their work. Sometimes I'm like,
Mm.
"Oh, this amazing stuff." But I think having that group environment is really encouraging and helpful for everyone in it.
Yeah.
So I have that, but then I also have my childhood best friend, who I've known since we were sort of 3. So she reads all my pages
Oh,
because
I
she
love
gives
that.
me completely honest, like brutally honest, sometimes feedback. But I did go to her specifically because I knew she would tell it to me straight. And
Yeah.
that's what I was needing at that sort of point when she started reading my work. Um, and so that has been invaluable because she's so quick with it. If I throw an idea at her, I'm like, what do you think about this idea or writing this? She'll literally just say, ah, no, no, doesn't interest me. Just, there's no beating around the bush. So you can kind
Yeah.
of move on from it. And and then there's also I have a couple of really good author friends as well
Yeah.
now who I basically check a lot of ideas with, and
Yeah.
but also just about writing life, the industry. You're getting a lot of swirling information round from everyone of what's happening right now, what's
Yeah.
selling, um, what should you expect with things or not
Yeah.
expect with things. There's no real rule book with the industry or guide to the industry, and it is quite a mysterious place at times. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and it can be really, really lovely just having people that understand,
Yeah.
like, what
Yeah.
you're going through and the stresses that you have.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really, really helpful having that kind of it's just like a backing behind
Yeah.
you, and it works both ways as well, and it will go up and down between everyone from day to day. So
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a community and be kind of engrossed in those groups because yeah, I think you just need to be consistently around people that lift you up who are in the same
yeah,
situation as you and can navigate the ever evolving changes within that industry because it's just
it's
crazy
wonderful.
times, right? Even with social media and now with AI, it's like it's just getting crazy out there. So it's nice to kind of just bring it back down to a normal level and just be like, yeah, I've had a rubbish day. This is shit. And
Yeah,
this is
I
like,
think
yeah,
that's it. It is basically the Wild West out there, and there is no rule book at all.
yeah,
And so some days you don't know if you're coming or going. I
yeah,
think that was also part of why I do want to have that balance with working in law at the same
yeah,
time, because it's like the polar opposite. Generally speaking, it's
yeah,
very
yeah,
measured and organized, and I think I've probably got 2 sides of my personality, one that loves the spontaneity and, like, the
yes,
unpredictable nature of writing, and the other side that actually wants some stability and security and less
Yeah,
chaos.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I completely get that, completely get that. I'm the same. I have a corporate job and then I have this and I do some writing as well. So yeah, I have two sides of my personality.
And it can work really well.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, exactly. So what challenges do you find personally? Like, it could be now, it could be like when you first started, but yeah, what are some of the challenges that you have faced?
I think there are many challenges really in terms of basically I don't think anyone knows what the market is looking for. I think that is quite a difficult thing. So you can think a story would be super interesting, but you sort
Mm,
of present it to an editor and they're not so sure about it. So you go
yeah,
in your head, or you're like, this is difficult because you also have to somewhere align up with the people that are publishing the books as well.
yeah,
And you whereas before I was published, you're sort of writing in this creative vacuum and you can write whatever you want, but you do
yeah,
just become really aware of the market
yeah,
generally, but you're also not allowed to follow trends. So it's
yeah,
this weird thing of like you have to be aware of the market, but you can't follow trends. So
yeah.
you're like, what do you want me to do?
Just come
So
up
I
with
think
something brand new that no one's ever thought about before, and
yeah.
then you'll be the best-selling author globally.
And if you overthink it too much, you just would never write again because you're
No.
like, this is mad.
Yeah,
It can also be it is just also hard because there are just so many books out there, and I'm the same. I see one book and another book, and another, and then I'm sort of reading as fast as
mm,
I can get through a TBR pile. But I think authors realistically have to do probably more than they used to do to kind of get their
yeah,
books out there. And there's not that many authors that can sit back and do absolutely nothing. So I think it's
yeah,
sort of this awareness dawning across the industry of
yeah,
okay, there's more work than just writing the book here. Actually, you kind of have
yeah,
to put yourself out there a wee bit, and that's what's also very tough for authors. Is there?
yeah,
I mean, the act of writing in itself is solitary and quite introverted.
yeah,
I'm not technically an introverted person. I would say I'm more towards the other side, but I think also selling yourself
yeah.
is a strange skill. It's not one that I would have naturally gone towards at all, but you have to do an element of that with the books.
Yeah, because you've got a presence on social media, and then that's like a job in itself, isn't it? Just constantly
Yes.
having to market yourself, post, interact, and yeah, like you said, like it's not like the olden days where you didn't have to do any of that. It's like now you've still got to be kind of like your own social media manager and marketing
I think
manager.
I think you do. I think there's obviously a balance because I think if it makes you really unhappy and uncomfortable on social media, then just don't do it. And I always
Yeah,
think with the whole thing, it's more about finding where you're comfortable on the
yeah,
internet because I I've looked at TikTok and I did some sort of short writing bits and pieces on TikTok and that was fine. But I think I'm more comfortable on Instagram. So in my head, I've gone, okay, I'm comfortable here. So I'll focus my
yeah,
efforts here. I won't make myself uncomfortable with what I'm doing. I'm not going to stand up and start dancing on Instagram or anything because that will be beyond what I'm capable of. Everyone is different. So if you want to dance on Instagram, that's your prerogative. That's fine. But I do think it's probably again few and far between with authors that can do nothing
yeah,
because I think it can and it does upset me sometimes when I see new books coming out or I'm aware they've come out
yeah,
and I'm aware that I think maybe no one has told that author that they need to do more and
yeah,
then it comes out and they're sitting there going well I've only sold 2 books and no one knew about it and it's this
yeah,
horrible learning curve of um there is a bit of a hustle happening
yeah,
that it's not always known about until you're in it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Um, so I would love to know two more things actually. One, if you could write anywhere in the world, where would you write from?
I would say it is a tricky. I have two answers for this. One is I do really like writing around family life.
Yeah.
Um, I I I really don't like leaving them, so I tend to find I work my best if I can get left alone for an hour or two to get through
Mhm.
some stuff, but then come back to them later, and that tends to make me feel quite balanced and happy. But I would say in an ideal, lovely world, I think I would love to go up to the Highlands and
Yeah.
spend a few days writing away in solitude
Yeah.
in some sort of maybe slightly deluxe cabin. That would be nice. With
Yes.
nice views and just really tranquil. I think I would love to do that at some point. I haven't really gone away to write thus far, but I do always slightly get a pang of jealousy when I see people going away
No.
and doing that, and they're like, "Oh, I've written 15,000 words in like a day." I'm like, "Wow,
You're like
that does
trying to fit it
sound
in the
great."
hour that I have with the kids banging on the door. I'm nearly there.
Yeah, and I don't. I always come back to a quote I saw Maggie O'Farrell said, which I loved, was Um, she said she always wrote around family life because it almost compressed everything into those moments when she could write. So she would be hanging out laundry, thinking about the plot and stuff like that, and doing domestic stuff. And she said the act of being pulled away from the writing was so good for it because it allowed everything to sort of percolate
Yeah.
and come together in her head so that when she got a moment to sit back down and write again, that it all sort of came together in the
Yeah.
right way. And I love that because it just showed I think she's got 3 kids, and I'm like, she's
Yeah.
doing pretty well. So I
Yeah.
think I think the writing around family life is entirely possible, and you can
Yes.
do it in those glimmers of moments, and you don't have to have whole days or weeks at a retreat in order
No.
to write a book. And actually, if you're waiting for that, you're gonna be waiting a long time. I think it's
Yeah.
much better to just consistently sit down and
Yeah.
get those snatches of time that you're even if it's not family life, it's jobs or caring
Yeah, exactly.
responsibilities, somewhere in the day, if you really want to, you'll find that moment to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. I love that. And then what kind of what would you inspiration or what would you say to those aspiring authors that maybe haven't taken that step yet or maybe they're indie published and they're thinking about going traditional. What advice would you give them?
I would always come back to perseverance. I think you have to have nerves of steel. But even if you don't have nerves of steel, because I would say I
Yeah.
also in some ways don't, I'm quite a sensitive creature,
Yeah.
but you have to give yourself those nerves of steel and you have to go, you know, you've got to keep going. And
Yeah.
even in the face of rejection, you have to have belief in your stories and your writing,
Yeah.
and but also keep working on your craft so that you can
Yeah.
build up that belief. But I think it is mainly about the perseverance. And I've seen there was one author in particular who I would say, through sheer determination and willpower, she got herself onto supermarket shelves. I've never seen
Wow.
such perseverance. I mean, she was literally being battered away left, right, and center by
Yeah.
publishers. And then one day was on the supermarket shelf, and I was like, "How lit? That's the most impressive thing I've ever seen because of the amount of rejections you got." And I
Yeah.
always thought her writing was brilliant. And I
Yeah.
say that, I'm like, I said that to her. I was like, it's great. It's got brand quality, I think. And
Yeah.
I don't understand why they're rejecting it. And yeah, and then it ended up on the shelves. And the level of grit behind her journey was insane. And I think that tends to be a lot of the time what sets people apart is that determination to keep going. And
Yeah.
it could take years and years.
Yeah, it can. It can. Yeah, I love that advice. I love it. Okay, can I do like two or three fire round questions to you and just get you to answer
Yeah.
straight away? Okay.
I'll try.
Okay. First I'm gonna say, what's your favorite meal of the day?
Meal.
Yeah.
Oh, dinner.
Dinner?
Yeah.
What
Love
would it
dinner.
be? Any
Spaghetti
particular?
bolognese.
What was it, sorry?
Spaghetti bolognese.
Oh. Do love a good. That's a family favorite in our
Yeah,
household as well.
I love it. It's the
Kids love
best.
it as well. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl. I'm an insomniac actually, so
Are
yeah,
you?
definitely around
Oh,
at night a lot. If anyone needs me, I'm awake at 2 in the morning, so
wow. God, I'm an early bird. I'm definitely. I'm falling asleep at like 9 p.m. on the
I'm
sofa,
so
and
jealous. I wish I could. My brain comes to life about 9 o'clock, and I'm like,
oh,
"Here I am."
do your kids wake you up early though? Is that like an
No,
oh,
they actually people hate me for this, but this wasn't the case when they were little. But actually, now that they're 9 and 7, we have to get them out of bed. So, in a way, I feel like they've kind of moved around to my time clock a bit, I would say. So it works okay. We actually are starting to get people up earlier to try and kind of change it slightly, but I'll always be a
yeah,
night owl, I think.
yeah, okay. And if you could write any other genre, what would it be?
Thriller. Definitely
Thriller?
thriller. Yeah, I love thrillers as well. I love a love story, but I love a thriller. I love the
Yeah.
tension and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love a psychological thriller, and I watch a lot. I'm like, yeah, the two different types of personalities are like romance,
Yeah.
and then it's like the other
Yeah.
end of the scale.
It's the emotion. I think it's
Yeah,
like I either want the full love story with all the
yeah,
passion in it, or I
yes,
want people just dying and
yeah,
like creepy mysteries and like
yeah,
women in the window and all that
yeah.
kind of thing. So yeah, I just
Although I can't watch that too late at night because I then scare myself and I
yeah,
start dreaming about it. So it has to be a certain time that I watch those. But I do love
yes,
those.
a balance.
Um, perfect. Well, I've absolutely loved chatting to you. I really have. I could just talk to you for hours.
It's
So,
been lovely. It's been so
yeah,
good.
it's been really, really good. So, where can people find you?
So my website is msteeleauthor.com, or I'm also same name on Instagram, msteeleauthor, and that's predominantly where I am. But please do also reach out at any point because I also take great joy in looking at people's hooks if they're ever struggling with that, because I find it
Yeah.
really interesting and I think it's such a critical part of submissions. And I spend ages on my own as well. It's that sort of thing. I know the pain of it. So yes, I'm always available to chat about writing and things like that.
Oh, perfect. Brilliant. You probably get a lot of people messaging you now after
I
after
love
saying
chat.
that.
I love chatting, to be honest. I love chatting to writers about books. It's just great. It's not a chore at
Yeah.
all.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It honestly has been a pleasure. And yeah, I'll speak to you very soon, Emma.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you.